In this video, we're going over the best mobility exercises for goalies. So today I'm going to go over some of my favorite mobility exercises that I'm using from Goalies all the way from Pee Wee to Pro, and that you can be using whether after a workout or in your training to make sure that you're developing the mobility that translates. All right, so we're going to be going over an entire mobility sequence that I would often give one of my pro guys, and this is something you can do whether you're at home just watching TV, hanging out, or post practice, or during a workout, or you could just cherry pick some of your favorites that you feel like could really develop your mobility at home or in the gym. So a lot of goalies, they have these tight restricted ankles, and it's often because they're getting into those often awkward positions, whether it is down low or anything like that, and the pad and the skate is kind of stopping that mobility at a certain point. So if you want to get a little bit more mobility in your ankles, this is one that's going to really help you. We're focusing on just basically pushing that knee as far forward as I can. I'm going to hold for 3 seconds, and then I'm going to gently let go. So this could be taken to the next level by having some sort of block underneath. Oftentimes I'll use a foam roller, and again, creating that push into the wall and let go. But I know that if you're doing this exercise for even just a couple minutes a day, you're going to find way better ankle mobility and be able to find nicer and cleaner positions in the crease. All right, so we're going to move up the chain a little bit now to our calves and ankles. So it's basically the exact same concept, but now I'm just going to have my toes up. I'm going to be standing, and then I'm going to do this actively. So I'm going to try and take my chest as low as I can to my toes. So if you're looking at this from a side angle, I want to make sure that I'm not just rounding over and trying to create that classic stretch here, but I'm actually actively pushing in. So as I'm pushing my hips back, I can feel it here as it starts to pull, and I want to kind of find that end range, hold it for a couple of seconds, and then let go. So I would get into this for around 10 reps, really making sure that I'm trying to create as much range as possible, and then letting go. Really focus on relaxing that end range. Make sure you're not restricting, you're not holding your breath. Let go of the movement, and you're gonna find that range 10x better tomorrow. All right, so we're gonna get into our hips now, and hips are super complicated for goalies because there's so many movement styles versus just players that often get restricted through their hip flexors. Goalies have a ton of mobility requirements actually on the ice that translate to performance. So we wanna make sure that we're really spending our time on our hips daily. All right, so I'm gonna lay completely flat here, and then I'm just gonna be creating as much rotation here and trying to get my knee as close as I can to the turf, holding, kind of forcing it down, and then into my next one. So I can already, on me personally, start to feel that cramp through here, and that's what I want. It means that I'm tight and restricted, so I'm pushing down into it, trying to fight it, trying to relax into it. So if you can see that movement pattern, you can already see that this is a movement that you're gonna see a lot on the ice if you're in some sort of butterfly position, and the more that you can create that internal rotation, the better off you're gonna be. All right, so we have another movement through basically those same muscle groups, but this time a little bit more passive. My first position, I'm just bringing my chest down to my knee. I'm just gonna hold it, find something that feels tight. So that's position number one. Position number two, I'm taking my chest over to my foot, and I'm trying to get it as low as possible. And again, if this isn't enough of a stretch, try and get further. Try and get a little bit more aggressive in the hold, the more kind of pressure and intensity you're gonna bring to this stretch. So this is an awesome exercise that you can be doing super passively. I could be watching Netflix or anything right now and not really notice it, but I'm gonna be creating a huge release through my hips and my upper adductors. All right, so if you've seen that passive 90-90, now we're gonna get into our active 90-90. And this is an awesome exercise for goalies because we're really gonna start to create that range of control here. So I'm gonna start getting set up and making sure that knee is behind my shoulders, I'm sitting up tall, and then I'm gonna have a lift off with my leg, and I'm coming right around as tall as possible. And then I have a switch. This other leg's coming out, this guy's coming down, and then I'm taking this leg as straight as possible for as long as possible and back. So that would be considered just a half rep, and then I need to come back the other way. So again, making sure I'm not falling forward. This exercise becomes super easy if we're in this position, but I'm sitting up as tall as possible. I have that long straight leg right ahead, and I have my switch over and back right around. All right, so this is super valuable for goalies because we're not just creating mobility, but we're controlling mobility. And this is what actually matters in the crease, is that we're getting that range of motion that we can control. All right, so we are gonna get into our hip flexors now, and this is an awesome exercise because we're really focusing on getting both into our hip flexors and our actual hamstrings. So for starters, I'm gonna have one hand go up. It's gonna be whatever knee is on the ground, and then I have one arm coming behind me. So I'm actually reaching it out almost down that leg as far as possible, and then I'm letting go, and I'm coming down into my hamstring. And then we're coming right back up the other way with a flex down, a hold, and then a let go. So we want to make sure anywhere between 10 and 15 reps and really relax into this. I'd rather see a 5-second or 10-second hold here than kind of just grinding through reps. All right, so our next exercise is going to get into that groin. So I'm going to get set up on all fours. I'm going to take one foot out as far as I can and making it as straight as possible. And then all I'm going to be focusing on is taking my butt back as far as possible. And then more importantly is bringing it forward. So I might need to walk my hands a little bit to actually create a stretch, but I'm trying to create that release through that range as much as possible and just taking it through further and further. Now we don't want to put too much pressure into our knee. So if I'm getting out here, I can start to feel kind of some pressure through that MCL area, medially through the knee, which we don't want. We don't want to be creating pressure down there, but we do want that release through our groin and then also through our adductors to find that position and control that position that we will be in at some point in that cross crease save. So I'm going to get set up laying completely flat, and I'm going to be focusing on taking my opposite foot to my opposite hand. So as you can see here, I really want to be going slow, and then as I get out there, I'm just pausing for a half second. I'm relaxing, I'm making sure that I'm taking a deep breath, smooth release out, and then I'm going back over to the other side. We find that the perfect amount of reps for this is around 20, and we really want to make sure that we're taking that 2 to 3 seconds to completely relax. All right, so our next exercise here is a thread the needle. So we want to make sure that we're getting into our upper back. And this is an area that's often neglected by goalies. So I'm going to get set up in all fours. I have my one leg straight out, and then I'm going to be taking my hand as far as I can underneath, almost as if I'm trying to touch my shoulder down. If that means that I'm not cheating and I'm only getting this far, that's fine. Try and create that release through your upper back, and then open up as much as possible and try and create that straight line and relax. So we want to make sure that we're kind of getting active through this. We're forcing some range here and trying to create as much mobility as possible. All right, guys, so those are some of our favorite exercises for goalies to really begin to develop some elite and transferable mobility. We want to make sure that we're not just stretching for the sake of it, doing some toe touches or anything like that, but we're actually developing the mobility that's going to translate to keeping us healthy and translate to being a better goalie in the crease. So these are the type of exercises that you guys need to be doing daily, whether it's in a workout, after practice, or just at home hanging out. This is the stuff that translates. So if you're a goalie and you're interested in training at the next level, make sure you're heading over to relentlesshockey.com, where you can find all sorts of goalie training programs, articles, and free manuals to really take your game to the next level. Stay relentless.